and I'll put a link up for you. This is the end of semester cleanup webinar, and there's many reasons why you might want to do a semester cleanup. For instance, if you have a very large number of students, some of them have graduated or dropped or moved on, you might want to keep those records because you want to run reports from the past. However, you don't want to have them cluttering up your new database, your new semester database. That would be one reason you would do a cleanup. Another reason might be your activity list has gotten really large. So, for instance, you've got 300 classes in there, many of which aren't even taught anymore. Well, any of you who have worked with AccuTrack know it's kind of difficult to, especially like in your semester setup, to move the active activities over to that active side and the inactive ones. To try to sort through that list is kind of tedious. So if you only have the courses for the current semester, it makes life a whole lot easier. Other things would be maybe you have tutors that are no longer there. You don't really want to have them in there. So there's a lot of different reasons. Now there's different approaches to doing a new semester setup. I've seen colleges where they do exactly what I'm saying. They just keep growing that list until it becomes so large that they can't even manage it. At that point, we'll archive the database and then point them to a new one. Other colleges, and I like this approach, they'll create a new database for each semester, and then if they want to go point back to spring 2012 or fall 2012, it'll be right there. But each semester is then archived. They can go run reports from those, and they always have the current semester there. So that might be a good approach for you too. Now I'm going to show you basically how we're going to copy a database, then we're going to rename it to the new semester, and then we're going to clean it in order to get rid of all the extra records in there, so then we can start fresh. Now once we've dumped that, we wouldn't have any classes, we wouldn't have any students, so then we would want to make sure we had an import file handy, because then we'd re-import the activity and the students for the current semester. Okay? And I'm going to show you how this works in AccuTrack and AccuSQL. I think it'll be good for you to see it in AccuSQL, and it may be more of an IT type person doing it, but I still think it's good for you to see how it works in SQL. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is open up regular AccuTrack. Okay, so as you can see, let's just take a look at my students and activities here. Well, I have quite a number of students and I have quite a number of activities. So let's, for argument's sake, call this fall 2012. Okay, I want to take this database, I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to call it spring 2013. And then what I'm going to do is go through the cleaning process to get rid of all the other records that I don't want, so then I can start using the clean database for the new semester. Okay. Now it's a very easy thing to do here. I'm going to exit AccuTrack and show you the back end. Now I've got my database right here on the same drive where my computer is, but typically that wouldn't be the case. You'd have it out on the Z drive or some shared drive. But the same thing holds true. Instead of going to the C drive, well, you go to the Z drive and go find that AccuTrack database. Okay. Now the database I have right here, I'm calling that fall 2012. So the process of copying that database is as simple as copying it in your shared folder. So I'm taking my fall 2012 and I'm copying it. Okay. Now think of it this way. This is my fall 2012 that I originated with. This is my fall 2012 copy. But now I'm going to rename this Spring 2013. So this is going to be my new database that I'm going to use to build for Spring 2013. Okay, and then a little trick here. I can go run my set data path, and I'll go pick that database. Spring 2013. And I open it up. Now I'm going to be working on the database ultimately I'm going to be using for Spring. Oops. if I can type the ID right here. Okay, so now I've got a working copy of the database I'm going to use, Spring 2013. Now you can go make another copy if you want to, just in case you aren't happy with the results of your deletions or purges. You can always roll it back and start over. So you can copy that folder over and over again. And as you probably know, I can back it up right here as well. So I can back it up right through AccuTrack. And the way that works is, I hope you can see this here, but it says 2012121713 something something. So what it does there is it stamps it by year, month, day, hour, minute, second, and it puts it in the backups folder right here. So this is the one I just did, and it's, like I say, year, month, day, hour, minute, second. So that's a real easy way to back up your database as well. Okay, but let's say in this case, I want to start over. And by the way, why am I doing this? Why aren't I just starting with a fresh database and just building it again? Well, there's a good reason for that, because I've got all of my setup options here, right? So I've got all this stuff set up. This takes hours to set up. Well, I don't want to have to start with a fresh database and do all this again, right? So it'll keep all my options settings, but I'm just going to get rid of my students and my activities in this case, okay? So here's all my old students, let's say, and I'm going to re-import those. And here's all my old activities, so I want to get rid of all those as well. Okay? Now I do that by going to Database Delete. Okay, and when I go to Database Delete, it shows me all of the things that I can delete in AccuTrack against this database. So I said I want to get rid of my students. So what I would do is find anything student related here and just check the box next to it. Okay, students in line, and I said activities. Well, I want to get rid of my categories and my activities. So I'll do that, and there's my activity. Okay. Now I can clean up anything else I want to see. For instance, let's see, I think I already did that one, but student sign-in logs. Right here. So that's all of the sign-ins and sign-outs. Now, by the way, this is an intuitive delete. So if I delete a bunch of students, well, AccuTrack is smart enough to say, well, if you delete all these students, then I'm going to have a lot of orphan sign-in logs, right? So it knows to delete the associated records, so you don't have orphans in the database. Okay? But I'll pick that, and then I can back up here too if I want to, but I'm going to delete that, and then it's going to complain, well, I just backed it up, so I don't have to worry about that. I'll say yes. So what it's going to do is go through and wipe out exactly what I told it to. My activities, my categories, and all my student stuff. Okay? Now when I do that, I can go back now and look at my students. Well, and sure enough, I don't have any students, right? I can go look at my activities, and I don't have any activities or categories. Okay, so just like that, but here on the back side, I have every bit of my options here. Okay? So now I'm ready to re-import my students and activities, and I'm good to go for Spring 2013. Okay? Now, if I had a lot of tutors in there that I didn't want anymore, well, I could certainly do the same thing there. Right here, I have tutor information. So my tutor activities are categories, tutor sign-in log. So I can delete all of my tutor information here. And now that's gone. And I had quite a few tutors in my database, but now if I go look to prove it, I should have none. And indeed, I have none. Okay? Now I said to delete my activities, so if I go here, let's look at my semester setup. Well, sure enough, I don't have any semesters, I don't have any information whatsoever. Okay? So then I would go through the process. Now back to this semester thing, I could go ahead and edit that. Let's call this Spring 2013. Okay, now it's going to complain that I don't have any activity assignments, but that's okay. So I'll say, let's start, let's say January 7th to the end of May. So now I've got my Spring 2013 semester sitting out there waiting. Now, some of you may know already, but the way the semesters work in AccuTrack is when AccuTrack opens, it knows what today is. Okay, so it checks today, and then it loads these selected activities for this particular day. So right now, the way it's set up, well, it would complain that I have no activities, First of all, because, well, they're all deleted. Second of all, because it's not December 17th, right? It's not till January 7th that that semester starts. Okay? And you can run these concurrently. I could run fall, up until January 6th, and then start spring. It would start spring on January 7th. Okay. All right. So then I could go through my import process, and I would be ready to go with this semester's database. Okay. But I'm going to show you a few other things here. I'm going to go back and let's copy fall again. And we'll call this. We'll call it nest. About next. All right, next 23. Now I'm going to go back and set my data path again for that one, so I don't have to go into AccuTrack to do it. Okay, so here we go again. It's a copy of the one that I was working with before. Okay, now that was sort of a drastic method in a way of deleting all the records out, but we were good, first of all, because we had copies of the database. Second of all, we knew we had fall 2012 and we want to start 2013. So that's the method you would go. And then if I wanted to go pick let's say I want to run reports from fall 2012, well, it's as simple as just going to pick the database location. And if I have them archived, well, I could go look and I could then pick, well, I want fall 2012 or I want spring 2013. This list would continue to grow, and then I could go run reports. So if you want to find something from the ago, if you will, you can just point to that database. Okay. Okay, but what I'm going to talk about now, I'm going to change gears a little bit, and I'm going to show you how we can use imports to do a couple of things with new semesters. Now, for this example, I don't want to get rid of any activities. I don't want to get rid of any students, but let's just say, for argument's sake, that I'm using registration. Okay, registration means that the students would only see the courses that they're registered for. Okay, now think about that. If a student's been registered for the last 2 years, well, if they're taking 12 credit hours each semester, well, what it would be they'd have 24 or more credit hours. So they'd have lots of different stuff in their registration, right? It wouldn't just be this semester. Okay? But there's a simple way to get rid of registration from the past and just register them for this semester. Okay? And that's with the registration import. So I've got one out here. And it's a real simple little box to check here. Right here it says overwrite current registration. Okay, when you do that, it wipes out all the registration that's already there, and then it just registers them for whatever courses are in the current import file that you're going to register. Okay, so that's an easy way to keep your registration up to date. Okay, now the other import I want to show you is the student import. And there's one simple setting for that. And the reasoning behind this is, well, you still want all those students in there. You still want to run reports for students that were here last fall, but you don't really feel like starting a brand new database. Okay, so that's the reason for doing this. And when I do student import, okay, I've got a couple of things here. Excuse me, update from import file. Well, that means if the record is already in AccuTrack, it's going to update the information in AccuTrack from what's in the import file. Okay, but the second one is what we're talking about for the cleanup, is inactivate students that are not in import file. Okay, so if you go look at the student records, there's a little active checkbox for the students. It simply inactivates them. They can't sign in. They can't do anything. However, you can go run reports, and they're going to be available for you when you report. Okay? So that's what inactivates students that are not on import file. Okay? And be careful with this. I mean, if you have one record on your import file and you check that box and you have 5,000 students, well, 4,999 of them would be inactive based on that import. Okay, so that's the registration overwrite and the inactivate students that are not on the import file. Okay. Now, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here, but what I want to show you, and I said I would, is I just did that entire backup in AccuTrack, right? So I copied the folder, I renamed the folder, I pointed to whatever database. Okay, but I'll show you how easy that is in SQL Server. Okay. Now, this is SQL Server Management Studio. This is what the IT people would run behind the scenes. These are all the databases that I have for AccuSQL. But let's just say that this Dave 1201 tutor, let's say that that's fall 2012. Okay, so I want to use this database for spring 2013. Okay, in SQL Server, all I have to do is right-click and go Tasks, Copy Database. Okay, so when I do that, it has a little window. It comes up and tells me. And it'll automatically select the one that I had. And then I can change the name. Okay, spring 2013. I do next. And I can run the job immediately. Well, sure. And then it's going to go do its thing. Okay, it's done. So then this is a little odd, but I have to refresh the look here. So if I refresh my list here, well, sure enough, there's spring 2013. That's ready to go. And then I perform the exact same steps. If I want to go delete those records, well, it's the same thing. I go back on the back end, press the database delete, pick my activity, my category, my students, my tutors, whatever I want, and get rid of it. The imports are exactly the same. I could do a registration override import. I could do a inactivate students not on the import file import. So the only thing different is the way you back up the database. You do it in SQL Server Management Studio here. In AccuTrack, you do it simply by copying folders. Okay. All right. Now another little used function, but kind of a nice one, is talking about purging data. Okay, and let me show you how that works. Okay, now the reasoning behind this one is, let's say that we've had students that we've been collecting over the years. We have categories and activities we've been collecting. But we want to get rid of the old students. Okay, we want to get rid of students that have not signed into our center for a very long time, which would indicate to us that they're not here anymore, right, that they're gone. Okay, so I do that by using the purge feature in AccuTrack, or AccuSQL, same difference. Okay, so it pops open a little box here and it says delete all students and related records who have not visited since. Okay. Now if I do that, I'll say, well, I'm going to pick 2001. So if they haven't signed in since 2001, it's a pretty good guess they're not here. I delete that and it's going to give me a little message. Okay, and I have, by the way, 5,050 students in this database, but it says 4,381 of them have not signed in since 2001. Do I want to proceed? So if I did that, it would wipe out those 4,381 and the remainder would be left. Okay? And it did say associated records, so it would wipe out. It's smart enough to know it's going to wipe out the associated sign-in logs, any other information that's linked to that student record. Okay? So that's how purge works. Okay? Let's see here. I've got talking briefly about semester dates. Okay, this example, I'm not going to delete a thing, I'm not going to purge a thing, I'm not going to inactivate anybody, but I'm simply going to use my semesters and set those up to help with my report filter. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, so as I said before, AccuTrack knows what today is, right? So it's going to load the semester for today. Now this one says year 2012, but if you go into your reports, whatever today is always going to be listed in the filter as current semester. So current semester is the semester that includes today. But I'm going to go add some more semesters here. And I'm going to call it, just for argument's sake, I'll call this spring 2012. Okay, so I'm kind of making up some old ones just so I have some data in there. But let's say spring 2012 went from, let's say January 4th through the end of May, I guess. And, I'll say everything is there. Okay? So now I have spring 2012, and we'll make this, to make this clearer, we'll make this fall 2012. Okay, and then let's say I had another one from the past, and we'll call this Summer A 2012. And we'll say that was June through about the end of 12. Oh, and it caught me because I've got June 4th through, where's the overlap here? August 30th. Oh, so it knows, and I don't have assignment. I'm doing great. Okay, so we'll give it assignment. So it's smart enough to know that we can't have 2 todays. That's what it's complaining about. So you already have that day. Why are you trying to add another day? Okay. But this is all just to show you how you can keep building these. So each semester rolls around, you create a new semester here, and you move the active activities to the selected side over here, and they're ready to go for this semester. So this is important for reporting, which I'll show you in a second. But this is also what I meant by if you keep growing your activity list year after year after year, how it gets bigger and bigger. And I've seen colleges where it's not called advanced database. It uses the activity ID. So it's advanced database 1102A. Then all of a sudden the next semester you have an advanced database 1102B. But 1102A is not going to be available this semester. 1102B is. Well, you'd have to sort through your list here just to move it from the not selected to the selected side, which when you have 500 courses, that can be awfully tedious and time consuming. So that's a good reason to archive your database. But if your activity list isn't huge, if it's manageable, this might be a better solution for you. Just rename your semesters, and then back here in reports, for instance, that's why this is so important to me. I can go run reports, but I can run them for spring 2012, summer A 2012. Remember, this semester is today, which is fall 2012. So if I kept growing that list, well, I could run reports from any time in the past for every semester that I've had set up. Okay, so that's another nice way to handle your data. Okay. Other than that, there's really not a whole lot. We purged the tutors. We talked about that. How AccuTrack handles all the associated records with the deletion. So that's a nice thing. Now in AccuTrack, this is an important thing to discuss because I get a lot of calls on this. When I delete a record in AccuTrack, well, it's really not deleted. Okay, and what I mean by that is it simply marks the record for deletion. It puts a little flag on that record and says, hey, this tutor record's marked for deletion. And then I'll get calls for people and they'll say, I'm trying to add this tutor ID and it says it's already in use, but there's no way that tutor ID is not there. And my first question is, well, was it there at one point and deleted and now you're trying to recreate it? And usually the answer is yes. Okay, to get around that, and when I do these massive deletions or get rid of records, it's always a good procedure in AccuTrack to do a few different things. I would say you clean your data. See, it says remove deleted records permanently. Well, when I do that, then those records are gone for good. I can go back and add that tutor with the same ID, no problem. Okay, the other one is database repair. So if you're doing major overhauls like purges and deletions, absolutely I would recommend doing a data repair. That would be the last step that you would do in AccuTrack before you start that new semester. Okay, in AccuSQL, well, it's a different animal. You don't have to do any cleans. You don't have to do any repairs. All of that is handled on the SQL Server side. So you don't even have to worry about that. If I was in SQL Server and I clicked repair, it would tell me you're in SQL Server mode. You don't need to repair. Okay? But in AccuTrack, that's an important step. Okay? Now, I know that I said that this would go for an hour, but really I didn't think this would be an hour-long topic. But I can go ahead and open it up. If anybody has any questions, they can certainly enter them. And I would like to state also that if you have questions along the way, if you're doing this deletion or purging, you're like, it's my new semester, oh boy, what did he say? Well, again, it'll be on YouTube, but as always, I'm available for phone calls or emails. Just give me a call or email me and let me know what's going on. We can do a meeting. You know, my number one priority is to make sure you don't lose anything you don't want. So don't go purging if you're not sure or deleting. Call us and we're happy to help. Okay? And as always, I want to point out our feature request site. We're excited about this because it's starting to grow. And it's accu.uservoice.com. And this is where you would submit something that we don't have in AccuTrack, but you'd like to see it in AccuTrack. Okay? So you can just sign right in with your email. And when you do that, you can add whatever feature requests. We're going to review these. And this is what we're going to use to drive what we're going to see in future releases of AccuTrack and AccuSQL. Okay? Okay, I don't know if anybody's muted or not. Yeah, I don't believe we are. So if anybody has questions, they can ask them now. Gosh, I covered it so well. No, everybody's got it, huh? Well, good. And again, call me or email me if you have questions. And I thank you for coming out. Okay, bye everybody.